Hello everyone, welcome to my video. I'm Mayra, also the Uncanny Critic. In this episode, or this video in the Nostalgia Factor, we're gonna talk about a movie franchise that not only I think is integral to my childhood, but I think has been drilled so deeply into my subconscious that I think that every decision I make and every moment in my waking hour has a scene from this movie somewhere in my subconscious. I don't know where exactly, but it's definitely there. It is a movie that people still have the nerve to give a 77% on Rotten Tomatoes, even though it has survived and is still relevant in 2021. Well, 15 years after its release date. This movie is Cars. So, first of all, let me introduce you to the Nostalgia Factor. If you have not seen the first episode, which was about Pretty Little Liars, I hate that I'm calling them episodes. It is not a show. It's basically a show, I'm still calling it a show, where I talk about things that I'm nostalgic about because I watched them in my childhood and looking at them from slightly older eyes. Not really that older, but slightly older. Old enough to be able to look back and be nostalgic about it, if that makes sense. So, Cars. Let's talk about Cars. What is my backstory with Cars? Well, I have a very interesting relationship with this movie, the first one especially, because me and my brother would have this thing where we'd kind of watch this movie every single day after we came back home from school. I simply do not understand why we did this, but it just, I never got bored of it for some reason, and I still don't get bored of it when I watch it now, which is interesting. It has just remained entertaining for me, but now it's entertaining in nostalgic way, you know? Other than that, I think it's kind of like one of those movies that I think shaped my humor, shaped my personality a little bit because of its humor and because of the kind of vibes it gives off unexplainably. It very much has meme vibes, but also it has capitalist slave vibes, which I am totally a part of, by the way. I will touch on this aspect later on because it probably makes zero sense, but we'll get to that. If you don't know what Cars is a 2006 Pixar film about cars. So basically it is about this car called Lightning McQueen, who is a race car, and he learns humility after he ends up in this random southern rundown forgotten town in Southern America. Yeah, so it's basically a cocky car. Oh my god. Learning how to be a decent human being, and it's very much gives cliche, It very much gives off "this has been told a million times before" vibes, but I love it because they're cars. You know what I mean? They're cars. My nostalgia factor for this, I must say, is very, very high. It is, I would say, maybe an 8 out of 10. It very much is of a building block of my babyhood, of my childhood. I can visually remember parts of this movie. It's not even funny, it's actually kind of concerning. But yes, if I watch it, I will not be driven to tears, but I will kind of be driven to tears internally, if that makes sense. Here's the thing, most of the films I watched when I was a child, I kind of, especially considering the age I watched them at, I kind of didn't know what the plot was, but for this one, I did for some reason. It was easier to follow, if that made sense. Anyways, let's actually talk about this movie. Is it actually good objectively? I think it's hard to say, because objectively it's nothing new. Like I said, it's this cliche, famous cocky guy learns how to be a decent human being after being humbled or something by a Paul Newman-esque character. Is it actually good? Again, I think it is objectively it is kind of decent, just because it's very charming. I think that's the main reason why people like it. It's charming, and also it has cars. Again, as I mentioned before, that's a very important part of this movie. They are indeed cars. Yeah, it's decent, but again, and charming and cute, but again, I think the reason why it's not as loved as other Pixar movies is because it's simply not that deep, I guess. Like, it doesn't have deeper and more interesting themes, and also the fact that it's cars is kind of an arbitrary thing. Like, there is no reason as to why they are cars. For example, in a movie like Finding Nemo, like, it kind of makes thematic sense that they're fish, because it's kind of about being lost from your family, and the ocean is a perfect setting for that, since it is practically most of the Earth's surface. So, I mean, none of the Pixar movies make sense. They're freaking animation, but like, they make sense thematically as to why they are what they are. But for cars, it really doesn't make sense. Like, haha, look, they are car because car race. But subjectively, I think it's one of the best man-made creations ever, so I'm a little bit biased, I've gotta say. I think it's a cinematic masterpiece for all it's worth. I'm gonna talk about some things I remember and some things I think about looking back. First thing, as mentioned before, I think that the choice of using cars as the vehicle, haha, no pun intended, for the story is strange and raises a lot of questions. Are cars alone in this Cars universe? Something that has been haunting me for the past week thinking about this movie, because I think about this movie a lot in my waking hours. Don't even ask me why. What happens when you open the door? Like, do you just look inside and there's like organs? Or like, does something fall out? What's going on inside? Why do they even have windows? Like, windows are functionally there for people who are sitting inside to look outside. So why do they have windows? Is there car racism and sexism? I mean, it's implied in Cars 3. I mean, we're talking about Cars 1, but it's implied in Cars 3 that there is kind of the idea of sexism. So was there a first wave of car feminism? Was there a suffragette movement within Cars? Question. Is it a capitalist society? Do they have the concept of money? They have businesses, so I assume they are in a capitalist society. How do they feel desire? How can cars be attracted to each other when there is no reproductive function for cars? Okay, this is really strange. They don't reproduce, so they wouldn't have desire for each other. I think I'm overthinking it, but again, it's questions like these that leave me a little bit dumbfounded. And I just wish it was elaborated on, because it very much gives off, we wrote cars as the main characters because they're race cars, like, vibes. I just wish there was more levity and more expansion, because I kind of want to see the Cars universe, and I guess they try to do that with the movie Planes, but again, I don't care about Planes, which apparently is a horrible movie, and I don't want to know if there are also other types of vehicles. I want to know, what is the world of cars like? Anyways, I didn't really think about these aspects that much when I was younger, because again, my mind was like, oh my god, they're cars, that's fun. And also, it was a little bit of suspension of disbelief, so I guess the movie did something great, hooray, I guess. And even though I did think about it recently, I'm not mad, like, it's not angering me, it's just a funny kind of thing that makes me think to myself, like, wow, this is stupid. For me, it isn't a big deal. But again, as we can tell, I'm an unreliable narrator because I am extremely biased. So another aspect of this movie I liked is the forgotten southern town. Like, it's cute. I love the back to roots vibes. I love a good redemption arc because, I really like seeing character development, Guess what? We get that here through this town. And I think it's super interesting that this town basically just gets cut off, like no longer visited by people because the road just doesn't connect there anymore. I don't know why, like, you know, there's always, I like to call this the Pixar moment, which is a part in Pixar movies that is supposed to really hit you. Like, it's supposed to be a tearjerker. For me, for example, in Toy Story 2, it was that scene where Jessie talks about her owner, and I cannot, like, I literally cry on cue with that scene. It's not even funny. I think I've conditioned myself into crying whenever I watch that scene. I very much thought that scene was that scene where they talk about how amazing and popular the town was before, and I thought that was so sad. Like, not me crying at this town, like, being forgotten. Nothing is sadder than a bunch of businesses being closed down. This is not okay. I very much get sad when I see people's livelihoods getting taken away, and I saw that with this town. I think it's cute that every character in this town has a personality. Like, I feel if you took away like one car character, it would not be the same. I thought it was different from their other movies, and I really think that's why it is interesting, I guess. Again, they are Cars, so that's incredible, which takes me to the rebound of Cars. So here's the thing, right? They say the greatest measure of the quality of something, how it stands the test of time. And name any irrelevant Disney movie that had, or Pixar movie that had, you know, higher ratings, that survived the test of time the way Cars did, okay? It's 2021. Again, it's been 15 years almost, and this movie franchise has made a rebound, and people are still talking about it. People meme about it. I don't know if this was intentional or not, but this movie is like hilarious, and it's like moments like the ka-chow moments, or like the beginning monologue, even like Speed, I am Speed, one winner, 42 losers, I eat losers for breakfast. Like, I don't know if it was intentional.
Thunder, what's he talking about thunder?
Yeah, you know, because thunder always comes after lightning. Kapow!
That's a redolent.
Show us the boo!
Show me the
No. Dinner. What the?
Like, I don't know if it's like ironically funny or unironically funny. Like, I don't know what, but it is funny, and it very much fits with 2021 sense of humor. Put for me any scene from Cars, I will laugh. Like, people talk about how this movie is cliche, but again, I would like to say it literally has talking cars. Like, the cars literally talk. They spawned a whole subgenre of talking cars animation movies. By the way, there are a disturbing amount of animation movies where cars talk. Like, what is about that? And they're like terrifying, nightmare fuel, literally. Okay, it might be cliche, but again, have you ever seen it done with cars? I don't think so. Voice actors in this movie are literally like perfect for their role. Like, I cannot explain the casting choice of Owen Wilson as main character Lightning McQueen, who, by the way, has a comically hilarious name. I can't. I'm just realizing now, is that supposed to be like a ode to Steve McQueen? That's so funny. And Lightning isn't like, you know, he's fast like lightning. That's so... No. He's very much a perfect fit to this, to this very cocky car. Michael Keaton as Chick Hicks is also incredible. This guy just steals the show, him and his mustache, you know? Not Michael Keaton, but the car's mustache. Okay, so I just found out right now that Cars lost Best Animated Feature to Happy Feet, which is gonna be I'm sure is gonna be one of the movies on our nostalgia factor list, but that is just, it makes my head spin a little bit. Happy Feet is literally a horror movie, like, I'm not kidding. No video about Cars would be complete without mentioning the utter disaster that was Cars 2. Cars 3 was not a disaster, but Cars 2 was, and let me tell you why, because Cars 2 decided that Mayra was the main character for some reason. Like, there's a reason why side characters are side characters, and that's because they are side characters. He's too annoying to be a main character, and he was annoying in Cars 2. Yeah, I very much liked hearing Emily Mortimer voice a car called Holly Shift well. I like hearing Emily Mortimer's voice. I also was very shocked when I found out that Michael Caine was the guy who voiced Finn McMissile. Very strange vibes from that. I don't know how I feel about that. Anyways, the whole movie is a disaster. I did watch it a lot though, but I watched it passively. Like, I never enjoyed it really. It's just one of those movies I watched as a child, and I didn't have any quality ometers in my head. I didn't have any strong feelings towards it. I just thought it was blech in compared to the first one, you know? It's not a good movie, and I do not look at it with nostalgia. Cars 3, however, I did not watch until recently. And recently means maybe 1 year ago, which I'm scared to even say because I've lost all track of time, because I just realized right now that 1 year ago is January 2020, which is terrifying. Yeah, I watched it and it's fine. That the intern, she was charming enough. I also realized Armie Hammer voices a car in this movie. Again, I do not forgive Cars 3 for doing that. I do not want... Okay, so there's one thing to see a car on my screen, but to see a cannibal is a completely different thing. I'm kidding, I don't know. It very much gave Avengers... No, not me comparing it to Avengers. It very much gave off, like, passing the torch vibes, and I always like to see... Like, it very much gave Logan vibes. You know, like when movies, especially superhero movies, have a movie where they kind of realize they're not that good anymore and they have to pass the torch to, like, the younger person. I always like to see that. Again, I thought it was done tastefully here, but it's just... It doesn't have the same charm as the first one. I feel like they did it just because they wanted to say, hey, Cars is still a good thing. Like, maybe, but I just think it would have been nice as a standalone movie. I really wanted to see Lightning McQueen just be a race car and have my mind live with that. I just think that it is an interesting movie, and I think it's so strange how it's made a comeback and it just persisted in people's memories and in the public stratosphere. It's very much a testament to its quality, but it very much reflects how culturally important Cars was. The fact that it stayed this long in people's memories, the fact that people are still talking about it now, gives very much Shrek vibes, because people are still talking about Shrek. Also, like I mentioned before, the idea that, you know, it spawned this whole subgenre of animated car movies, very much iconic. Something I need to mention is the fact that Cars is literally... It kind of is about neoliberalism and capitalism. I'm telling you, I see capitalism everywhere, but especially in Cars, it's... Okay, so what is it, okay? So the story is about a race car, right? He wants to be a race car, and he needs to be humbled. He goes to this old forgotten town that teaches him how to be humble. I need to stop saying humble. That teaches him to be a better person. And this town serves as character development for this cog in the capitalist machine, because what he does is he uses it as a tool for self-development and self-improvement for the purpose of going back to the racetrack. So what does he do? He commodifies his personal development. So instead of seeing this personal development as a thing that, is for himself and just choosing to, like, I don't know, live like a countryside life or whatever, suburban life, he goes on to go back to the racetrack, and he just, he uses it to commodify himself, and he saves that blue car at the end. He helps him, and you know what? The media eat it up, he becomes a worldwide sensation. Let me tell you something, this is the core of neoliberalist philosophy. You commodify your every single personal experience, and I think that Cars may have embedded neoliberalism in me. Sorry, Cars, you did that to me, and I will never forgive you, but I still love you for it. I am very much a capitalist slave, unfortunately. I am very much a victim of hustle culture, even though I hate it. I hate neoliberalism. I hate the culture of neoliberalism, and I hate hustle culture, but again, I am my own worst enemy. Like Lightning McQueen is his own worst enemy. I need to stop talking about the link between Cars and neoliberalism. Okay. How else did Cars give me personal development? It made me realize that sometimes a movie doesn't have to be, like, amazing. It can just be fun. Like, this movie, I would say, is fun. It made me realize that Italian people are disproportionately stereotyped in the media, especially in American media, and I don't know why. Bro, there is a huge Italian population in the US. Show some respect. It's just, it very much gives I love pizza, pasta vibes, and it really, it never buttered my bread back then, and it still doesn't butter my bread now, so maybe not. Actually, this whole movie franchise gave me personal development to hate America. It gave me personal development to be an independent woman. The character of Sally very much gives off girl boss vibes, and I love that. I think Sally is a good character. Also teaches public sensibility. Famous people can't be above the law. Yeah. How does that help my personal development? I don't know. When it comes to memorabilia, it's one of those things that I didn't really have memorabilia of. Actually now I want memorabilia, because the only memorabilia that I have is in my mind of me watching this movie a lot. I didn't even have the Cars video game, because I didn't enjoy playing with cars as toys. I preferred Barbies, and that was also linked to the fact that I was a big Barbie fan. The movies, they slapped. Don't come for me. But yeah, I don't have much memorabilia. It's now that I actually want memorabilia. I've been looking at getting a shirt of Lightning McQueen on it, that is affordable and also from a trustworthy source. So if you have any, please send it through. I'll take a look. Or one that says Rusty's on it, because I really love having pajamas and shirts with things I used to watch from my childhood. It very much gives me comfort vibes. I think, again, I want to circle back to the importance of looking back at these things and revisiting these things, because I think nostalgia is very important. And I very much understand that it can be seen as a very bittersweet thing most of the time, and I maybe what I'm trying to do with this is, nostalgia factor is maybe having a way for me to deal with my nostalgia, but also hopefully if somebody's listening, it can help them deal with their nostalgia, because I think it's important to process your nostalgia and kind of look back and be more happy about it. And I think it's important to revisit these kind of things, so it's not something from the past, but rather something you can look on now and reflect on and think about how this sort of, in this case, this piece of media impacted your personality or your personal development, or your even the way you look at media or the way you look at life. I think it's very important. And even though it sounds stupid, I think things like cars, like they live on in your memory. For better or for worse, they live on in your memory and they kind of impact your personality. This very much impacted my personality, I think. I think a lot of my sense of humor stems from cars. But yeah, I think it's important to look back on those formative years where you consume a lot of media that kind of influences who you are and influences how you think about the world. I think it's important to process that. But yeah, this was Cars. And the nostalgia factor, and I hope you enjoyed this episode. I feel very weird calling it a show, but I hope you enjoyed this one, and I'll see you in the next one, which I am not sure what I'm gonna do, but it might be